David stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie for the umpteenth time. The apartment was filled with an air of nervous excitement. Today was a big day. He had been preparing for weeks, not just in terms of knowledge but mentally and emotionally. This wasn't just any job. It was the opportunity of a lifetime. He glanced at the photo on his dresser, his mother smiling back at him. She had always believed in him, and today, he carried her spirit with him. He picked up the delicate silver necklace lying next to the photograph. It wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a talisman of strength and love. His mother had worn it every day, and after her passing, it had become his cherished possession. David fastened the necklace around his neck, feeling a rush of warmth and comfort. It was as if she were with him, guiding him, giving him courage. The apartment was quiet except for the sound of his own breathing. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. His mind raced with possible interview questions and the perfect answers he had practiced. But deep down, he knew it wasn't just about the answers. It was about showing who he was, his dedication, his passion. This job was more than a career move. It was a step toward fulfilling a promise he had made long ago. David's phone buzzed with a reminder. Interview at 10 a.m. He had plenty of time, but he decided to leave early. Better to be prepared than rushed. He grabbed his portfolio, filled with carefully crafted resumes and letters of recommendation. Each document was a testament to his hard work and determination. He glanced around the apartment one last time, making sure he hadn't forgotten anything. As he locked the door behind him, the morning sun greeted him with a warmth that mirrored the necklace's comfort. The city was already bustling, everyone absorbed in their own routines and destinations. David made his way to the subway, every step a mix of anticipation and hope. He replayed his mother's words in his head, a mantra that had kept him going through the toughest times. You can do anything you set your mind to. The subway ride was a blur. David's mind was solely focused on the interview. He ran through his responses again, mentally rehearsing his introduction. His heart pounded with a mix of anxiety and excitement. He knew this was his moment to shine, to prove to himself and to his late mother that all his efforts were worth it. He could almost hear her encouraging voice, reminding him to stay calm and confident. Arriving at his stop, David exited the train and found himself amidst the morning rush. He navigated the sea of people with a determination that set him apart. His destination was a sleek, modern building that towered over the city. Standing before its imposing structure, he felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it. He took a deep breath, clutching his portfolio tightly, and walked through the revolving doors. The lobby was impressive, with its high ceilings and elegant decor. David approached the reception desk, introducing himself with a polite smile. The receptionist directed him to the waiting area, where he joined a few other candidates. He could feel the weight of their gazes, each one a mix of curiosity and silent competition. David chose a seat near the window, allowing the natural light to calm his nerves. Minutes felt like hours as he waited. David's mind wandered to the countless hours he had spent preparing, the late nights and early mornings, the sacrifices. He reminded himself that he was ready. The necklace rested against his chest, a steadying presence. Finally, a door opened, and a smartly dressed assistant called his name. David stood, straightened his tie one last time, and followed her down a long corridor. Each step echoed with the sound of his polished shoes on the marble floor. The assistant led him to a large, imposing door and knocked gently before opening it. "Mr. Anderson will see you now," she said with a warm smile. David nodded, taking a deep breath before stepping inside. The room was spacious, filled with natural light, and dominated by a large wooden desk behind which sat Mr. Anderson himself. Mr. Anderson looked up from his papers as David entered, offering a firm handshake. "David, is it? Please, have a seat," he said. Motioning to a chair opposite him, David sat down, his mind racing but his exterior calm and composed. The interview had begun. As Mr. Anderson began with the usual pleasantries, David felt the necklace under his shirt, a reminder of the strength and love that had brought him here. Throughout the initial questions, David answered confidently, drawing on his preparation and experiences. He could tell that Mr. Anderson was impressed with his qualifications and the way he handled himself. But there was something else, an unspoken connection that David couldn't quite place. The room felt charged with an energy that was both unsettling and familiar, as if destiny was at play. As the interview progressed, Mr. Anderson's gaze fell upon the faint outline of the necklace under David's shirt. His eyes widened slightly, a flicker of recognition passing over his features. David noticed the change but continued speaking, unaware of the storm of emotions brewing within Mr. Anderson. It was as if the necklace had opened a portal to a past that Mr. Anderson had long kept buried, a past that was about to come crashing into the present. The necklace had been more than just an accessory. It was a piece of history woven with love and sacrifice. David's mother, Elena, had received it as a young woman from her grandmother. The delicate silver chain and heart-shaped pendant held generations of stories. Elena had worn it every day, a symbol of her resilience and unwavering spirit. It had seen her through the toughest times, and now it was David's most cherished keepsake. Elena's life had been a tapestry of dreams and hardships. She had always told David stories of her childhood, filled with laughter and struggle. The necklace was a constant in these stories, a silent witness to her journey. When David was a boy, he would sit on her lap, listening to her tales while playing with the pendant. It was during one of these moments that she made him a promise, that he would achieve great things and fulfill his dreams. When Elena fell ill, the necklace took on an even deeper meaning. David watched as his mother's strength waned, but her spirit remained unbroken. She clung to the necklace, drawing comfort from its familiar weight and the memories it held. On her final night, she pressed it into David's hand, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is yours now," she said, her eyes filled with love. "Let it remind you that I'm always with you." The weight of that moment had never left David. He wore the necklace every day, feeling its presence like a reassuring hand on his shoulder. It was his link to his mother, a source of strength in moments of doubt. As he prepared for his interview, he couldn't help but think of the countless sacrifices she had made for him. Every step he took was a step towards honoring her legacy and making her proud. David often found himself absent-mindedly touching the pendant, especially in moments of stress. It was as if he could draw strength from it, a tangible connection to his mother's unwavering support. The necklace had seen him through his hardest days, from the grief of losing her to the pressures of building a future. It was a constant reminder of her love and the promise he had made to himself to never give up. Elena's stories had always been filled with dreams of a better life, not just for herself but for David. She had worked tirelessly, often taking on multiple jobs to provide for him. The necklace had been a silent witness to her late nights and early mornings, her unwavering determination to give him every opportunity she never had. Now, as David faced one of the most important days of his life, he felt her presence more strongly than ever. The morning of the interview, David had taken a moment to sit quietly and reflect. He held the necklace in his hand, feeling the cool metal against his skin. He closed his eyes and remembered his mother's voice, her words of encouragement and love. "You have the strength to do anything," she had always told him. Those words echoed in his mind as he prepared to step into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Even in the hustle and bustle of the city, David felt a sense of calm. The necklace was his anchor, a piece of his past that guided him forward. As he walked through the crowded streets, he thought about all the times his mother had believed in him, even when he doubted himself. Her belief was now his guiding light, leading him to this moment where his dreams and reality could finally converge. David's mother had been his first and greatest mentor. She had taught him the value of hard work, integrity, and compassion. The necklace was a symbol of these lessons, a reminder of the person she had raised him to be. As he approached the building where his interview would take place, he touched the pendant one last time, feeling a surge of confidence. This was his moment to make her proud and honor her memory. In the quiet moments before the interview, David found himself thinking about his mother's dreams. She had always wanted him to succeed, to find happiness and fulfillment. The necklace was a testament to her sacrifices and her hopes for his future. It was a part of her that he carried with him, a source of strength and inspiration. As he waited to be called in, he knew that whatever happened, he was never truly alone. The connection between David and the necklace was profound. It was a reminder of where he came from and the person he aspired to be. Each time he felt its weight, he was reminded of his mother's love and the promise he had made to himself. The necklace was a symbol of continuity, a link between the past and the future. It gave him the courage to face each day with determination and hope. David's mother had always believed in the power of dreams. She had instilled in him the belief that with hard work and perseverance, anything was possible. The necklace was a physical manifestation of that belief, a token of her faith in him. As he sat in the waiting room, he could feel her presence, guiding him, encouraging him. He knew that whatever happened next, he was ready. The significance of the necklace went beyond its physical form. It was a symbol of David's journey, a testament to the love and sacrifice of his mother. As he prepared to enter the interview room, he felt a deep sense of gratitude. The necklace had been with him through thick and thin, a constant reminder of his mother's unwavering belief in him. It was a symbol of hope, love, and the promise of a brighter future. As David stood up to follow the assistant into the interview room, he took one last moment to touch the pendant. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath, feeling the strength and love that it symbolized. This was his chance to honor his mother's memory and fulfill the dreams she had for him. With the necklace close to his heart, he stepped forward, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. David arrived at the towering office building, his heart pounding in his chest. The sleek glass facade mirrored the bustling city around it, a testament to the company's success and prestige. He took a deep breath, clutching his portfolio tighter, and stepped through the revolving doors. The lobby was grand, with high ceilings and polished marble floors, every detail exuding professionalism and power. He approached the reception desk, his nerves tingling with anticipation. "Good morning. I'm here for an interview with Mr. Anderson," David said, his voice steady despite the butterflies in his stomach. The receptionist smiled warmly, checking her computer before directing him to the waiting area. David nodded, thanking her, and walked over to the plush chairs. He took a seat, trying to steady his racing thoughts. This was it, the moment he had been preparing for. He glanced around, noting the other candidates, each absorbed in their own anxious thoughts. The minutes ticked by slowly, each one stretching out like an eternity. David's mind raced with potential questions and rehearsed answers, his confidence ebbing and flowing. He touched the necklace under his shirt, drawing comfort from its familiar weight. It was a small gesture, but it helped center him. He reminded himself that he belonged here, that his hard work and dedication had led him to this moment. He took another deep breath, letting it out slowly. Finally, the door to the inner offices opened, and a well-dressed assistant called his name. David stood, smoothing down his shirt and straightening his tie one last time. He followed her down a long, pristine corridor, the sound of his footsteps echoing in the quiet space. The assistant stopped in front of a large wooden door, knocking gently before opening it. "Mr. Anderson will see you now," she said with a smile, Holding the door open for him, David stepped into the office, his eyes quickly taking in the spacious room filled with natural light. The walls were lined with bookshelves and impressive accolades, a testament to Mr. Anderson's successful career. Behind a large mahogany desk sat Mr. Anderson himself, a man in his late 50s with sharp features and an air of authority. He looked up from his papers as David entered, offering a firm handshake. "David, please, have a seat," he said, his voice calm and commanding. As David sat down, he couldn't help but feel a surge of adrenaline. This was his chance to make a lasting impression. Mr. Anderson began with the usual pleasantries, asking about David's background and qualifications. David answered confidently, drawing on his experiences and preparation. He spoke about his education, his previous jobs, and the skills he had acquired along the way. Mr. Anderson listened intently, occasionally nodding and making notes. Despite the initial nervousness, David found himself easing into the conversation. He focused on showcasing his strengths and demonstrating his passion for the industry. Mr. Anderson's demeanor was professional but approachable, making it easier for David to relax and speak openly. He highlighted his achievements and how they aligned with the company's goals, emphasizing his commitment to contributing to the team's success. As the interview progressed, David felt a growing sense of confidence. He was articulate and well-prepared, his answers reflecting his dedication and hard work. Mr. Anderson seemed impressed, his questions becoming more in-depth and engaging. They discussed various projects and challenges within the industry, David's insights and ideas flowing naturally. He could tell that Mr. Anderson valued his perspective, creating a dynamic and stimulating conversation. Then, something unexpected happened. As David spoke, Mr. Anderson's gaze shifted to the faint outline of the necklace under his shirt. His eyes widened slightly, a flicker of recognition crossing his face. David noticed the change but continued speaking, unaware of the deep emotional impact the necklace had on Mr. Anderson. The room felt charged with an unspoken tension, a connection that neither of them fully understood yet. Mr. Anderson's questions became more personal, subtly probing into David's family background. David answered honestly, mentioning his late mother and the necklace she had given him. As he spoke, he could see Mr. Anderson's demeanor shift, a mix of curiosity and something deeper. There was a silence, a moment of understanding that passed between them, though its full significance remained just out of reach. The interview drew to a close, and Mr. Anderson stood, extending his hand once more. "Thank you, David. We'll be in touch soon," he said, his voice steady but with a hint of something unspoken. David shook his hand firmly, expressing his gratitude for the opportunity. As he left the office, he couldn't shake the feeling that something profound had just occurred. The day had been more than just an interview. It had been a step towards uncovering a hidden chapter of his past. Walking out of the building, David felt a mix of emotions. The interview had gone well, but there was an underlying sense of mystery that lingered in his mind. He touched the necklace again, feeling its reassuring presence. Whatever the future held, he knew he had given his best. He had shared a part of his story, a piece of his heart, and now it was up to fate to decide the next steps. As he made his way home, David replayed the interview in his mind. Mr. Anderson's reaction to the necklace had been unexpected, leaving David with more questions than answers. There was a connection, a thread that linked their lives in ways he couldn't yet comprehend. But he felt a sense of anticipation, a belief that this was just the beginning of a new chapter. With his mother's memory guiding him, he was ready to face whatever came next. David sat back in his chair, feeling a sense of accomplishment. The interview had gone well, and he could see a hint of approval in Mr. Anderson's eyes. But as the conversation drew to a close, something unexpected happened. Mr. Anderson's gaze lingered on the necklace, peeking out from under David's shirt. His expression changed from one of professional interest to something deeper, almost haunted. He seemed momentarily lost in thought, his eyes fixated on the pendant. Mr. Anderson's reaction didn't go unnoticed by David. He saw the man's eyes widen slightly, a flicker of recognition passing over his features. It was as if the necklace had triggered a memory, something buried deep within his past. David felt a shiver run down his spine. What was it about this necklace that had such a profound impact on Mr. Anderson? The room seemed to grow quieter, the air thick with unspoken emotions. Trying to maintain his composure, David continued to answer Mr. Anderson's questions, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was happening. The interview had taken an unexpected turn, and the atmosphere in the room had shifted. Mr. Anderson's demeanor was no longer just professional. There was a personal element now, a connection that neither of them fully understood yet. David's curiosity was piqued, but he stayed focused on the task at hand. Mr. Anderson cleared his throat, his voice slightly strained. "That necklace," he began, his tone softer than before. "It looks familiar. May I ask where you got it?" David hesitated for a moment, his mind racing. He explained that it had belonged to his late mother, a precious keepsake she had left him. As he spoke, he noticed Mr. Anderson's eyes soften, a mix of emotions playing across his face. Recognition, sadness, and something else, something deeper. The room felt charged with an almost palpable tension. Mr. Anderson seemed to be wrestling with his thoughts, his usually composed exterior cracking ever so slightly. "Your mother," he said slowly. "What was her name?" David could see the genuine curiosity and concern in his eyes. He answered, "Elena. Elena Martinez." The name hung in the air, and for a moment, it felt like time had stopped. Mr. Anderson's reaction was immediate and profound. Mr. Anderson's eyes widened further, and he leaned back in his chair, visibly shaken. "Elena," he repeated softly, almost to himself. It was clear that the name meant something to him, something significant. David watched as a myriad of emotions flashed across Mr. Anderson's face: surprise, sadness, and a deep, unspoken sorrow. The connection between the necklace and Mr. Anderson was becoming more evident, though its full story remained a mystery. There was a long, heavy silence as Mr. Anderson collected his thoughts. He looked at David, his expression a mixture of curiosity and pain. "I knew an Elena once," he said quietly. "A long time ago." David felt his heart skip a beat. The revelation hung in the air, begging for more details. Mr. Anderson seemed lost in a flood of memories, the past suddenly very present in the room. David leaned forward, eager to learn more. David's mind was racing. What were the odds that Mr. Anderson had known his mother? The connection seemed almost too coincidental, yet here it was, staring him in the face. Mr. Anderson took a deep breath, his eyes meeting David's. "She was a remarkable woman," he continued, his voice tinged with emotion. "Strong, compassionate, and full of life." David felt a lump form in his throat. He had always known his mother was special, but hearing it from someone else, someone who had known her, was incredibly moving. Mr. Anderson seemed to be grappling with his emotions, the professional facade giving way to something more vulnerable. "I met Elena many years ago," he said, his voice growing softer. "We were very close once. She had a heart of gold and a spirit that could light up any room." David could see the pain in Mr. Anderson's eyes, the weight of a past that had clearly left a deep mark on him. The interview had taken a turn neither of them had expected. The connection between Mr. Anderson and David's mother was undeniable. David felt a mix of emotions: curiosity, sadness, and a strange sense of destiny. It was as if the necklace had bridged a gap between the past and the present, bringing to light a story that had been waiting to be told. Mr. Anderson's voice broke the silence again, his tone filled with regret. "We lost touch, for reasons I deeply regret," he said, his eyes meeting David's with a sincerity that was impossible to ignore. David felt a surge of empathy for Mr. Anderson. He could see the pain and longing in his eyes, the weight of a past that had never fully been resolved. The necklace had opened a door to memories that had been locked away for years. David found himself wanting to know more, to understand the connection between his mother and this man who now seemed so much more than just a potential employer. He knew there was a story here, one that needed to be told. Mr. Anderson seemed to sense David's curiosity and need for answers. "There's so much you don't know," he said softly, his voice tinged with a mix of sadness and hope. "About your mother, about our past. If you're willing, I'd like to tell you more." David nodded, his heart pounding. He had come for a job interview, but it was clear that he was about to uncover a part of his family's history he had never known existed. The necklace had done more than bring him luck. It had opened a door to the past. As Mr. Anderson began to speak, David was transported into the past through his words. He described meeting Elena in college, where she had been studying to become a nurse. They had met in a literature class, bonding over their love of poetry and classic novels. Elena had a magnetic personality, full of warmth and kindness. Their friendship had blossomed quickly, and it wasn't long before they became inseparable. Mr. Anderson's eyes grew distant as he spoke, lost in memories that seemed both distant and vivid. He recounted how their friendship had deepened into something more profound. They spent countless hours together, sharing dreams and aspirations. Elena had always been passionate about helping others, a trait that had drawn him to her. Her laughter was infectious, and her smile could brighten even the darkest days. David listened intently, hanging on every word. It was strange to hear about his mother from someone else's perspective, especially someone who had known her so well. Mr. Anderson's voice was filled with both fondness and sorrow as he continued. He described their long walks in the park, late-night study sessions, and the shared moments of joy and struggle. They had been young and full of dreams, believing that the world was theirs to conquer. But as Mr. Anderson's story unfolded, it became clear that their relationship had faced significant challenges. He spoke of the pressures of their respective careers and the societal expectations that weighed heavily on them. Elena had been determined to make a difference in the world, often sacrificing her own happiness for the sake of others. Mr. Anderson's career in business had taken him down a different path, one that increasingly diverged from Elena's. There was a palpable sadness in Mr. Anderson's voice as he described the moment their paths began to diverge. He had been offered a position in a prestigious firm, an opportunity he couldn't pass up. Elena, on the other hand, had been deeply committed to her community, working tirelessly at a local clinic. Their differing priorities and growing responsibilities had created a rift between them, one that neither had been able to bridge. David could feel the weight of the emotions in the room, the unspoken regrets and the what-ifs that lingered in the air. Mr. Anderson continued, describing the final days of their relationship. They had tried to make it work, but the distance and their demanding lives had taken their toll. Eventually, they had made the difficult decision to part ways, each following their own path. It had been a painful choice, one that left both of them with lingering regrets. As Mr. Anderson spoke, David could see the pain etched on his face. It was clear that this chapter of his past had never truly closed, that the memories of Elena had remained with him all these years. "I've often wondered what might have been," Mr. Anderson admitted, his voice breaking slightly. "She was the most remarkable person I've ever known. Losing her was one of the greatest regrets of my life." The story was deeply affecting David. It was as if he were hearing about a part of his mother's life that had been hidden from him, a chapter filled with love and heartache. He felt a strange connection to Mr. Anderson, a man who had loved his mother deeply and who now, decades later, was still haunted by their separation. David's heart ached with a mix of sorrow and empathy, understanding the weight of Mr. Anderson's words. Mr. Anderson paused, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. He looked at David with a mix of hope and vulnerability. "When I saw that necklace, I felt like I was seeing a ghost," he confessed. "Elena always wore it. It was a part of her, just as it seems to be a part of you now. Seeing it again brought back so many memories, so much that I had tried to bury but could never forget." David was moved by the raw honesty in Mr. Anderson's voice. The necklace had indeed been a bridge between the past and the present, connecting their lives in ways neither had expected. He felt a deep sense of gratitude for the opportunity to learn more about his mother, to hear stories that filled in the gaps of her life. There was a shared sense of loss, but also a bond formed through their mutual love for Elena. As Mr. Anderson's story came to an end, the room fell into a contemplative silence. David was overwhelmed by the depth of the connection that had been revealed. His mother's legacy was more profound than he had ever realized, touching lives in ways he had never known. The necklace, once a simple keepsake, had become a symbol of a love that transcended time and space, a reminder of the enduring power of human connection. Mr. Anderson took a deep breath, composing himself. "I'm sorry for overwhelming you with all of this," he said softly, "but I felt you deserved to know. Your mother was an incredible woman, and it's clear she raised an incredible son. I hope that by sharing this, I can honor her memory and perhaps offer some closure for us both." David nodded, feeling a mix of gratitude and sorrow. The past had been unearthed, and with it, a deeper understanding of his own story. Mr. Anderson took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. "David, there's more you need to know," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "Elena and I shared something very special, something I've carried with me all these years." David leaned in, sensing the gravity of what was about to be revealed. Mr. Anderson's eyes met his, filled with a mix of sorrow and determination. "Your mother and I were deeply in love." David's heart skipped a beat as the words sank in. He had always known his mother had a past before him, but hearing this revelation from Mr. Anderson was both shocking and enlightening. "We dreamed of a future together," Mr. Anderson continued, his voice tinged with nostalgia. "But life had other plans for us. My career took me in one direction, and her dedication to her work and to you took her in another." Mr. Anderson's voice grew softer, filled with emotion. "When I saw that necklace, it was like seeing a piece of Elena again. She never took it off. It was a symbol of our love, a promise we made to each other." He paused, the weight of his memories evident in his eyes. "We lost touch, but I never stopped thinking about her. I wondered what might have been, how our lives could have been different." David felt a lump in his throat. The man sitting before him wasn't just a potential employer. He was someone who had loved his mother deeply, someone who still carried the weight of their shared past. "Why didn't you reach out?" David asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Anderson sighed, his expression pained. "I tried, many times, but every time I did, life got in the way. And then, one day, it was too late." The room was heavy with silence as David absorbed this new information. He felt a strange sense of empathy for Mr. Anderson, understanding the deep regret and longing that had marked his life. "She never mentioned you," David said quietly, more to himself than to Mr. Anderson. "She wanted to protect you," Mr. Anderson replied, his voice firm. "She wanted to give you the best life possible, even if it meant letting go of her own happiness." Tears welled up in David's eyes as he realized the depth of his mother's sacrifice. She had always put him first, even at the cost of her own dreams. "I'm so sorry, David," Mr. Anderson said, his voice choked with emotion. "I should have been there. I should have fought harder to stay in her life and in yours." David shook his head, struggling to find the right words. "It's not your fault," he said finally. "Life is complicated, and we all make choices we think are best at the time." Mr. Anderson nodded, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Thank you for understanding," he said softly. "I want you to know that your mother loved you more than anything in this world. She talked about you all the time, even when we were apart. She was so proud of you." David felt a warmth spread through his chest at the words. It was a validation of everything he had always felt but never fully known. David and Mr. Anderson sat in silence for a moment, both lost in their own thoughts. The bond they shared through Elena was undeniable, a connection that transcended time and space. "I want to honor her memory," Mr. Anderson said finally. "I want to help you in any way I can. If you'll let me, I'd like to be a part of your life, to support you in achieving your dreams." David looked at Mr. Anderson, seeing not just a businessman, but a man who had loved his mother deeply and genuinely. David nodded slowly, feeling a sense of acceptance and peace. "I'd like that," he said quietly. "I think it's what she would have wanted." Mr. Anderson smiled, a look of relief and gratitude washing over his face. "Thank you, David," he said. "I promise I'll do everything I can to make up for lost time, to be there for you as I should have been for her." David felt a renewed sense of hope, knowing that his mother's legacy would continue to live on through their shared connection. The confession had brought a sense of closure to both of them. It was a moment of healing, a chance to move forward while honoring the past. David felt a deep sense of gratitude for the opportunity to learn more about his mother's life and the love she had shared with Mr. Anderson. It was a reminder of the enduring power of love and the importance of understanding and forgiveness. As they stood to leave, Mr. Anderson extended his hand once more. "Thank you for giving me this chance," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. David shook his hand, feeling a sense of camaraderie and respect. "Thank you for telling me the truth," he replied. "It means more than you know." As they walked out of the office, David felt a sense of anticipation for what the future held, knowing that he was not alone in his journey. The past had been uncovered, bringing with it a deeper understanding and a renewed sense of purpose. David and Mr. Anderson stepped into the sunlight, ready to face the future together. The necklace, once a simple keepsake, had become a symbol of their shared history and the promise of new beginnings. David knew that, with his mother's spirit guiding him, he was ready to embrace whatever came next. David left the office, his mind swirling with the revelations Mr. Anderson had shared. The story of his mother's past, the love she had shared with Mr. Anderson, and the sacrifices she had made were overwhelming. As he walked down the busy street, he felt a mixture of emotions: surprise, sadness, and a strange sense of closure. The pieces of his life were falling into place, revealing a deeper understanding of his mother's journey and his own. He found a quiet bench in a nearby park and sat down, taking a moment to process everything. The necklace felt heavier now, its significance even greater than before. It was a symbol of love, sacrifice, and connection, a link to a past he had never known existed. David touched the pendant, feeling a surge of gratitude for his mother and the life she had given him. Her love had been a guiding force, shaping him into the person he was today. As he sat there, memories of his mother flooded his mind. Her laughter, her kindness, her unwavering support. They were all pieces of a puzzle that now made more sense. He thought about the times she had encouraged him, her words of wisdom and strength. She had always believed in him, even when he doubted himself. Knowing the depth of her sacrifices made him even more determined to honor her memory and live up to her expectations. David's thoughts turned to Mr. Anderson, the man who had loved his mother, who had shared her dreams and sorrows, was now a part of his life. It was a strange but comforting thought. There was a connection between them, forged by their shared love for Elena. David felt a sense of responsibility to learn more about Mr. Anderson, to understand the man who had been such an important part of his mother's past. Returning home, David sat down and wrote a letter to his late mother. It was a tradition he had started after her passing, a way to keep her close and share his thoughts and feelings. This time, the letter was different. He wrote about Mr. Anderson, the stories he had shared, and the emotions they had stirred. He expressed his gratitude for her love and sacrifices, promising to carry her legacy forward with pride and honor. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions and new beginnings. David and Mr. Anderson met several times, each meeting revealing more about their shared past and the bond they were forming. They talked about Elena, sharing stories and memories, laughing and crying together. It was a cathartic experience for both of them, a chance to heal old wounds and forge a new path forward. David learned about Mr. Anderson's life after his mother, his successes and struggles, his regrets and triumphs. The more he learned, the more he respected the man who had once loved his mother so deeply. There was a mutual understanding between them, a recognition of the roles they played in Elena's life and the impact she had on both of them. It was a bond that transcended time and circumstance, rooted in love and shared history. One evening, as they sat in Mr. Anderson's office, David asked a question that had been on his mind. "Do you think she ever regretted it? Letting you go?" Mr. Anderson looked thoughtful, his eyes distant. "I don't think so," he said finally. "Elena was always true to herself. She made choices based on what she believed was right, not what was easy. She loved deeply and fiercely, and I think she found peace in that." The answer brought a sense of comfort to David. His mother had always been a pillar of strength and integrity, and knowing she had found peace in her choices was reassuring. It gave him a new perspective on his own life, inspiring him to live with the same honesty and passion that she had. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, a determination to honor her memory by living his life to the fullest. David and Mr. Anderson's relationship grew stronger with each passing day. They became confidants, sharing their hopes and dreams, their fears and doubts. It was a relationship built on mutual respect and understanding, a bond that felt both new and familiar. David realized that in Mr. Anderson, he had found not just a mentor, but a friend and a father figure, someone who could help him navigate the complexities of life. Their shared journey brought a sense of healing and closure. Mr. Anderson found solace in being a part of David's life, a chance to make amends for the past and create new memories. David, in turn, felt a deeper connection to his mother, understanding her in ways he never had before. The necklace, once a simple keepsake, had become a symbol of their intertwined destinies, a reminder of the enduring power of love and connection. As the weeks turned into months, David found himself thriving. His career was taking off, thanks in part to Mr. Anderson's guidance and support. He felt more confident and focused, driven by the desire to make his mother proud. The lessons he had learned from her, combined with the wisdom shared by Mr. Anderson, became the foundation for his success. He was no longer just chasing a dream. He was living it. David's relationship with Mr. Anderson continued to evolve, growing deeper and more meaningful. They celebrated milestones together, shared in each other's triumphs and challenges. It was a partnership that felt right, a blending of their pasts and futures. They honored Elena's memory in everything they did, carrying her spirit with them as they forged ahead. The future looked bright, filled with promise and possibility. Through it all, David never forgot the lessons he had learned from his mother and Mr. Anderson. He remained grounded, always striving to be the best version of himself. He knew that the journey was far from over, that there would be new challenges and opportunities ahead. But with the necklace around his neck and the support of Mr. Anderson by his side, he felt ready to face whatever came next. The bond between David and Mr. Anderson was unbreakable, a testament to the power of love and understanding. They had found each other through Elena, and in doing so, had discovered a new sense of purpose and belonging. The future was theirs to shape, a canvas waiting to be filled with the colors of their shared dreams and aspirations. Together, they would honor the past and embrace the future, hand in hand. David sat in Mr. Anderson's office, a sense of anticipation hanging in the air. Their journey together had been unexpected but profoundly meaningful. Mr. Anderson had not only offered him the job, but had also become a mentor and a friend. Today, however, the conversation was about something more significant than just work. Mr. Anderson leaned forward, a look of determination in his eyes. "David, I want to help you uncover more about your mother's past," he said. David felt a surge of gratitude and curiosity. He had learned so much about his mother already, but there were still pieces of the puzzle missing. Mr. Anderson's connections and resources could open doors that David never even knew existed. "I'd like that," David replied, his voice steady. The prospect of discovering more about his mother's life and the choices she had made filled him with a sense of purpose and excitement. Together, they embarked on a journey of discovery, delving into archives and reaching out to people who had known Elena. Each new piece of information brought them closer to understanding the full scope of her life. They uncovered letters and photographs, stories of her kindness and resilience. It was a deeply personal quest, one that brought David and Mr. Anderson even closer together. The more they learned, the more they admired Elena's strength and spirit. Their efforts paid off when they found an old friend of Elena's who had kept a journal. The entries painted a vivid picture of a woman who was deeply passionate about helping others, who had faced incredible challenges with grace and courage. Reading these entries, David felt a renewed sense of connection to his mother. He saw reflections of himself in her words and actions, realizing how much of her lived on in him. Mr. Anderson, too, was deeply moved by the journey. It was a chance for him to reconnect with a part of his past that had been lost. He shared his own memories and reflections, providing David with a fuller understanding of the woman who had raised him. Their shared experiences and discoveries became a foundation for a new, deeper relationship, one built on mutual respect and a shared love for Elena. As the months passed, David and Mr. Anderson continued to work closely together, both professionally and personally. The bond they had formed became a source of strength and inspiration for both of them. Mr. Anderson's guidance and support helped David navigate the challenges of his new role, while David's passion and dedication reinvigorated Mr. Anderson's own sense of purpose. Together, they forged a path forward, driven by their shared goals and dreams. David's career flourished under Mr. Anderson's mentorship. He took on new projects and responsibilities, always striving to live up to the high standards set by his mother and his mentor. The company thrived as well, benefiting from David's fresh perspective and innovative ideas. It was a period of growth and achievement, a testament to the power of collaboration and shared vision. The future looked bright, filled with endless possibilities. Outside of work, David and Mr. Anderson continued to explore their shared history. They visited places that had been important to Elena, retracing her steps and learning more about her journey. Each visit brought new insights and memories, deepening their appreciation for the woman who had brought them together. It was a healing process, one that allowed both men to find closure and peace in the past. The bond between David and Mr. Anderson grew stronger with each passing day. They celebrated their successes together and supported each other through challenges. It was a relationship that transcended traditional roles of employer and employee. It was a partnership built on trust, respect, and shared experiences. They honored Elena's memory in everything they did, carrying her legacy forward with pride and dedication. One day, as they sat in Mr. Anderson's office, David looked at the older man and felt a deep sense of gratitude. "Thank you for everything," he said softly, "for believing in me, for sharing your stories, for helping me understand my mother." Mr. Anderson smiled, his eyes filled with warmth. "It's been an honor, David," he replied. "You're an incredible young man, and I'm proud to be a part of your journey." David knew that their journey was far from over. There were still many challenges and opportunities ahead, but he felt ready to face them with Mr. Anderson by his side. They had built something special together, a partnership that honored the past while looking forward to the future. With the lessons he had learned from his mother and the support of his mentor, David felt confident and inspired. As they left the office that day, David touched the necklace around his neck, feeling its familiar weight. It was a reminder of his mother's love and the promises he had made. He knew that with Mr. Anderson's guidance and his own determination, he could achieve anything. The future was theirs to shape, filled with hope and possibility. Together, they would continue to honor Elena's legacy and build a brighter future. The road ahead was long, but David felt ready to embrace it. With Mr. Anderson by his side and his mother's spirit guiding him, he knew that anything was possible. They had uncovered the past, built a strong foundation in the present, and now looked forward to a future filled with promise. The journey had only just begun, and David felt a sense of excitement and anticipation for what lay ahead. With a renewed sense of purpose and a heart full of hope, David stepped into the future, ready to honor his mother's legacy and make his mark on the world. The bond he shared with Mr. Anderson was a testament to the enduring power of love and connection, a promise of new beginnings and endless possibilities. Together, they would face whatever came next, driven by the spirit of a remarkable woman and the strength of their shared dreams. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey through David's story. His discovery of the past and the bond he formed with Mr. Anderson are a testament to the enduring power of love and connection. As David steps into a promising future, we see how the legacy of his mother continues to guide and inspire him. And if you thought David's story was compelling, you won't want to miss what's coming next. During a trip with his chauffeur, a millionaire sees his son's missing watch and is paralyzed with shock. The mystery and drama that unfold will keep you on the edge of your seat. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss out on these incredible stories. Plus, if you'd like to support our work and help us continue bringing you these daily emotional tales, check out the link to buy me a coffee in the pinned comment. Thank you for watching, and we can't wait to share more unforgettable stories with you. See you in the next video.